Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Today, I promise we're going to be talking about payroll. And let me tell you, Nichole and I definitely have some bones to pick. But let me first address the chair in the room. Everybody asks about this chair. Yes, it is a gaming chair. No, I do not game. These chairs were designed to be sat in for long periods of time. So they make great office chairs. So now we've addressed the chair in the room. But now I really want to get back into payroll. So our office does not process or support payroll in any way, shape, or form. It's this huge monster of a thing. Too much can go wrong, and you really want professionals handling that payroll for you. The problem is that not all professionals are alike. And even I don't think even that CPAs should be handling it, not accounting firms, unless that's all they do is payroll. It's sending a CPA or an accountant to do payroll, in my opinion, is a lot like sending a general practitioner to perform heart surgery. It's very specialized, and there's, again, so much that can go wrong with it. I really feel like we need those experts. So, and Nichole and I, we've vetted our experts. We know exactly who we want to be working with our clients, and we know exactly who we do not want looking with our clients. Isn't that right, Nichole?
Well, and it's more that the reverse is true. Like we've learned over time that there are some companies we just don't want to work with. And as a result, we've narrowed down the pool of who we will refer to. Like
Exactly.
over the years, we used to be fine with other payroll companies, but as they start dropping like flies after a while because they screw something up and then they're not willing to fix it. And that's one of our number one reasons that we
right.
don't like
And sometimes it's not even about what they screw up. Even if the client screwed something up, it's about how everything gets fixed in the end. I don't care who made the mistake. I only care how quickly the problem is fixed. And unfortunately, with a lot of companies, if we're not careful, they will not fix the problem, or they'll charge just ridiculous, excessive amounts of money to fix the problem, or they create a situation in which they are actually charging the client more. So we've run into that situation too, where they created additional transactions so that they could bill more and just made the situation even more complicated than it needed to be. And let me tell you, I think today we might actually call some companies out, like actual specific companies.
Oh yeah, I don't have any problem laying it all the cards on the table. All the cards on the table. Let's be real. If we're gonna be real, let's be real.
So today I'm gonna kick this off with QuickBooks Online Payroll, because what a nightmare.
Well, Intuit payroll of any kind. So
any
QuickBooks
kind,
Online,
any kind.
Intuit Online, QuickBooks Desktop, they all are terrible, and they're the bane of my existence.
And what's terrible about them is you can't do all the things that you think you should be able to do with payroll, number one, or you have to jump through some major hoops and it's more complicated than it needs to be. But the worst part of anything Intuit is customer service. Now, I know we have that problem with the accounting software as well, but we are so good with the accounting software, our clients generally never have to deal with QuickBooks customer service. But when it comes to the payroll, if anything goes wrong, you can be on hold for hours and hours at a time, caught in a loop, going from person to person to person, and nobody has the authority or the skill level to actually fix the problem. So we can literally spend an entire week on the phone with QuickBooks on one problem.
And let's talk about the time where nobody's direct deposit hit on time. It was a Friday the 1st of the month. So 90% of payrolls are run either on Friday or on the 1st of the month. And direct deposit didn't hit, they just shut down customer service because they knew what the issue was and they were working on it. So they just stopped letting people call, like literally shut off their phones.
They did. So they shut off their phones.
We have clients who are panicking because none of their employees got paid. And what are we supposed to do? And we can't give them answers. Intuit's not giving them any answers. And like my head exploded that day. Like I literally went ballistic.
Lots of heads exploded that day.
I'm sure.
They weren't really on top of it. I think that they sent an email after the fact.
After the fact. After they fixed the issue.
Proactive.
Instead of sending out a blanket email and saying, hey, we know that this is an issue. because of it, we've shut down customer service because we're working on the problem and we'd rather devote our resources that way. No, they just were silent. They went silent. They went completely dark.
Right.
Are
And there
you
wasn't
kidding me? Are you
Yeah, and there
effing
wasn't any
kidding me?
indication how long it was going to be before it was fixed too. So that's just one problem we've run into with Intuit. Switching from desktop to QuickBooks Online payroll software
when I say
has
this is the bane
been
of
a
my
nightmare.
existence, that is the bane of my existence. Having
Right.
to switch a client from QuickBooks Desktop Payroll to QuickBooks Online Payroll mid-year, you might as well shoot yourself.
Right.
Like,
and they won't fix it. Like they duplicated W-2s they've duplicated W-2s because the client started off that year in desktop and then switched to the QuickBooks Online version, duplicated W-2s and submitted them twice, which is bad for the employees. It's bad for the company. But do you think we can call QuickBooks to get that fixed? No, they're not going to fix it because it's just not even worth the time and energy involved. So they now have to pay us to deal with the IRS and try to get this mess fixed. So there's a couple of big examples there of some of the issues we've had with QuickBooks Online.
Another one
or Intuit, right?
Intuit Payroll quite frequently doesn't withhold the right amount of tax.
Oh, often. Yes.
That
it's
is
not
one
enough.
of the number
It's generally
one
not
issues.
enough, and you wind up owing taxes at the end of the year. Yeah.
Yep.
So,
and it becomes a problem when you're switching between the two, because
Right.
if the tax amount doesn't match what Intuit Online thinks it should be, you can't move forward. You can't move forward with processing payroll out of QuickBooks Online.
Yeah. So
many problems. Anyway,
not a huge fan. We're not fans of Intuit Payroll. I think that
I could go on an hour-long rant about all the reasons why we don't like Intuit Payroll, but that's good enough for today. We'll just suffice it to say that it is probably the worst product on the market. Payroll.
100%. I mean, great accounting product. Like we don't use anything but QuickBooks Online accounting out of our office, but that software, the payroll software is just awful. And the customer service is awful. And so
let's also talk about the fact that when you're using Intuit Payroll, it makes you be required to be the expert.
Right.
And it puts all of the owners of making sure it's done correctly on you.
Right.
What's the point of having a payroll company if you have to do it all yourself? Yeah,
they talk a good game in their marketing, but what is actually delivered just falls way short of where the expectation should be. Right. So, but then I want to talk about some of these bigger companies, the ADPs and the Paychecks of the world, who really they're national, international companies. Are they international? I don't know if I know at least they are national companies, and they're handling some very large companies, but then they also offer these services to our small businesses. And most of the time, I feel like the reason they're doing that is to collect market share, collect all these small businesses, get bigger market share, but they don't really take care of our small business clients the way they take care of their bigger clients, at least in my experience. And things are great. Like as long as the payroll is fine, everything is fine. It's when something goes wrong, and again, we go back to that. It's all about how the problem is fixed. And these larger national companies will make sure that no matter what, it is the client's fault, even if it really isn't. It's the client didn't do something there. They didn't respond, so there's a lot of issue there. And then the amount of time it takes them to fix a problem is way too long. In the meantime, our clients are getting penalties and interest accruing and letters are coming, and it's all a very frustrating situation.
Liens and
right, exactly, that whole thing. Not to mention just the stress of it all. But they also do they have a couple of other practices that really drive me nuts. And just an example, we had one client, great client for this large payroll company, never had any issues, always had the money there, and then had a transfer that just didn't go through. She either forgot to do it or didn't hit a button or something went wonky with the transfer. So when they went to take the payroll money, the money wasn't there. So it bounced. And rather than calling her and saying, hey, this is unusual for you, what's up? What can we do to help? They said, okay, you now have to give us 3 months. Was it 3 months worth of security
3 months worth of
deposit?
payroll as a
Like 3
security
months
deposit.
worth of payroll for a security deposit, or we're not processing your payroll anymore, which is absolutely asinine.
And in my opinion, like, why would you need 3 months? Like,
Right.
I understand having a security net of like 1.5 payroll cycles. Like,
it was excessive.
This client was pretty consistent. Like, pretty much all of her employees were salary based. So it's not like her payroll fluctuated a whole lot. It's not like her one payroll, it's like $20,000 and every other payroll it's like $5,000. No, it was pretty consistently right about that $10,000 per paycheck.
Yeah, exactly. But the system doesn't allow for error. There's no margin for error. You know, like they can make a mistake.
And on top of that, they shut off automatic tax impounds when things like that happen.
They tend to do that, and then the clients are generally not aware. And they'll say, well,
have
we
no
sent
idea
an
that
email.
their taxes aren't getting paid on time.
Right.
And then suddenly they start getting letters that the taxes weren't paid. Well, yeah, your payroll bounced, so we stopped paying the taxes.
And issues with these large payroll companies has been one of the number one reasons people have been in payroll tax trouble when I have to help people out of that situation when we have to go into tax resolution. So that's another thing that I really don't like about these larger companies. But then we've got a lot of online payroll companies starting to show up, right? So we've got the Gustos and the Patriots, and there's a whole bunch of others out there. And there are varying degrees of okay, but that's all they are, is okay. We still have the issues where it takes them a long time to solve a problem. The reports they're generating aren't that helpful for what we're trying to do in their books. Access can sometimes be an issue. Lots of little things like that. I mean, it's super convenient a lot of times, but then they're also not that helpful in terms of telling you what to do. So we've had a couple of clients go to one of these online places, Gusto or something or other, something like that, right?
Gusto.
Where they're like, Gusto just gives them a list of instructions, and the clients are like, I don't know what this means. Like, but
I've never
just
heard of
expected
this.
to go figure it out. Right. Absolutely. There's no hand holding for the client whatsoever. They have to process all of their paperwork. And then I know in Gusto's case, they charge extra for concierge service so that you can get quicker responses and have a single point of contact, I think. Right. So, and I don't know for certain, but that's a lot of where these online services are going. And they are honestly getting more and more expensive. I mean, expensive, even Intuit. Every time we turn around, they're raising the prices on their payroll services to the point where it doesn't even make monetary sense to be with them anymore. So, yeah. So what do you have to say about these onlines? I think you work with them a little bit more than I do, so you may have some additional.
So a lot of the thing with the online services is the fact that they are so new. They are still in the startup phase, so they tend to be more glitchy. So they tend to have more issues because they haven't had a long track record of being able to fix the issues as they pop up. So things just don't process correctly, or you don't get the notifications that it's time to process payroll, particularly when it's an off the normal schedule. So if you are in a holiday week and your payroll needs to be shifted a day in order to accommodate the holiday, you might not get that notification. And then by the time that you realize that you were supposed to run the payroll, it's too late. You don't have the option of doing direct deposit. So you have to write checks out, which takes extra time. And that's a pain in the butt.
Right.
It's just a lot of little things that are minor at the time, but over time they add up because they just continue to add more burden to you as the business owner or as the person who's processing the payroll and responsible for that.
And then people come to us and they want us to help them fix the problem, but we don't offer payroll support. And this is exactly why. It is a time suck There's no way we can do it. And honestly, when we meet with our clients, we tell them who we prefer them to be with because we don't have these issues with those. So like if that's fine, if you're going to go use another company, you just kind of have to deal with the consequences of your choice moving on from that point after we've had our say so, because we prefer to use local companies with local reputations to ruin if they screw our clients over.
We're very blunt about that. Like we know, and the thing is that we say it as if it's menacing, but we say it not with the intent of having any menace behind it, because we know that we don't need to go screw over these people's reputation, because they've never been in that position to drop the ball so bad that they can't fix it, or that they don't fix it.
Yeah, and they're not perfect. I mean, they're run by humans, right? All of these small businesses are run by humans. So there has to be some grace when something goes wrong. Yeah. Because
that's the thing is that we've learned over and over and over again with these companies is that when they drop the ball, or when the ball gets dropped, no matter who drops it, they will typically bend over backwards to make sure that it gets taken care of and fixed in as short of amount of time as possible.
Right. And that's what's important. Like, so some of these larger companies, they'll start playing the blame game, and you've got the client and you've got the payroll company pointing their fingers back and forth. But the companies that we refer to here locally in the Hampton Roads area, we don't have that problem. They're like, okay, yeah, the client, you made a mistake. And most of the time the client's like, oops. So yeah, we'll have to charge you a little extra to fix it. But hey, we're going to get it fixed, and they're going to get it fixed quickly. They're generally all over it. And then if it's their mistake, they have the same response. It's like, okay, we're not going to charge you. We made this issue, so we'll pay the penalty, whatever happened. But let's get it fixed as quickly as possible. And so, and I'm just going to go ahead and give them a shout out. Like we use right here in Hampton Roads, we use Time and Pay. Yeah, Randy Philpott over there at in Newport News. That's usually our first go-to, because if you already have a history of payroll and something is wrong with it, he will help fix past issues. Very personable guy, really great at the hand holding. So he tends to be our first go-to when somebody's had previous payroll.
Well, and the other reason we like him is because once you're onboarded with him, you have a dedicated payroll person. Right. That's your point of contact. So it may not be Randy that is your point of contact. Of course, like he's the business owner. He's the buck stops with him, but he has a dedicated payroll specialist that's assigned to you. You will always have them as your point of contact.
And they are amazing. They know their job. Yeah, exactly. They're amazing. They know their job. They're responsive. They pick up the phone. Like we really enjoy working with Randy and his staff there at Time and Pay. So it's been great. But we do have another one that we refer to out of Virginia Beach, and it's called Payday. And it takes a much more clinical approach in terms of the way it does sales, but you still have dedicated people you're working with. Again, it's a local company here, so they're very careful to take care of the clients. They don't treat, one client better than another because of size. So yeah, we will often say, hey, have both. Because, sometimes personality is a thing. Like Randy is very, very personable and in the weeds. Go ahead.
Don't have both, just talk to both.
Talk to both. We will give you both names. And I was getting there, Nichole. I was getting there. But the point is that because personality, like sometimes one personality is better for a client than another. But we always give out both so that you can choose which one you like the best. But it's just one of those things where, we are always working with our clients. We always have those resources available to them. They've always been vetted out. And again, we're not talking about they've never messed up ever in the history of any of their clients. It's again about how they handle it and get it taken care of as quickly as possible.
So going back to that, I ranted about the direct deposit with Intuit. Mm-hmm. We had a similar issue with Time and Pay. And they sent out an email as soon as they realized that it was something within their system that had messed up. They sent out an email, said, hey, we know that this is happening. We're already in the process of printing checks for everybody. We will have them to you no later than end of day.
Right. Simple and in that case, yeah. So what they use is a third-party intermediary, and that third-party intermediary that they use to process direct deposit went out of business, just closed. and never told anybody about it. And it put time and
Yeah.
pay in a very precarious position. But let me tell you, their staff worked so hard to make sure that everybody got their paycheck that day. It was just in the form of a physical check. But that was a lot of work. Like a lot of people were upset, but they put in a lot of work to make it right as best as they could. So sometimes it is out of the control of the payroll company. But again, it's how they deal with that situation that makes all the difference. And they were communicating, they were being proactive, and they were working really, really hard to make sure that everybody got their paycheck. So,
and again, that's one of the main reasons why we prefer them over the national or international companies, is the fact that they put in the extra effort to make sure that things, because they know they're people too, and they know that so many of our clients have people who depend on that paycheck to be in their bank at a specific time in order to make sure bills get paid the next day.
Right. Well, there's small businesses too.
Right.
So, and just so you guys know, yes, they are local to here in the Hampton Roads area of Virginia. But if you are outside of Virginia, they have the same capabilities as any of the national payroll companies. And so if you want their contact information, feel free to reach out to me. I will give them to you, because they can handle payroll anywhere in the United States. It's not a problem for them at all. Again, they have the same capabilities. So, Nichole, did you have anything else to add here?
No, not really.
We got our vent over. Like, we've been talking about doing this video for a while, because every time we turn around, something's making us mad.
Yeah.
Not with these two companies, though. Yeah. All right, you guys. So that's what we have going on this week, is all about that payroll. Next week, I am going to be talking about gifts. So I've been getting a lot of questions about how much people can give for gifts, like in the form of cash or property, and what the tax impact of that is like. So that's what I'm talking about next week. Definitely tune in, because do you know what the exclusion is? Do you know when you have to report? We're going to talk about that then. So we'll see you all then. Take care, everybody.